Good morning. In 1965 I published my second collection of poetry, which was called The City at the Water's Edge. Here's the book. The City at the Water's Edge is my phrase for the city of Venice, which I visited with a friend when I was, I think, 20 years old. The opening poem for the City at the Water's Edge is a long poem describing Venice, starts off by describing Venice and then goes on to explore the story of the Greek myth of Glaucus and Scylla, the story of which I took from the Roman poet Ovid's book called Metamorphoses, which is the retelling of various Greek myths of transformation, where somebody is transformed into something else. That seems to have appealed to Ovid. So at the time I wrote this book, I was then 24 years old. So I'm going to read the long title poem, The City at the Water's Edge, just as it is printed in this book. It is sometimes a bit over the top, as you would expect from somebody then aged 24. Not terribly over the top, but the language is a bit more extreme than I would possibly use now. I remember I was very much under the influence of W.B. Yeats at the time, so I was inclined to be slightly pompous, as of course Yeats can be, but he does it in a wonderful manner. So I'm going to read this poem just as it is in the book, since I think I owe it to my younger self not to improve on what he wrote. It's quite a long poem. I think it's about 250 lines, so I'm going to break it up, and the first section will concentrate on Venice. As I say, this poem was written, I say in the poem that I had not been to Venice for, I think it's 3.5 years. So at the time that seemed a long time ago. Now it seems almost nothing, of course, although 1965 seems a long time ago when this book was published. But when I wrote this poem, 3.5 years seemed an age away, although I could still remember Venice very clearly. So the first section will be me just reading the poem concerning Venice, and the second section will be the myth of Glaucus and Scylla. Glaucus apparently means, I looked in the Greek myths by Robert Graves, and Glaucus means grey-green, which of course would be the changing colours of the sea. I don't know that I want to go into the whole myth and what it may mean. In this long poem, The City at the Water's Edge, I use the myth to describe what seemed to me important then. That's to say that one should keep oneself earthbound. The longing was to escape, in Glaucus's case, into the freedom of the waters, to escape being bound to the earth and to escape into the freedom of the waters. Or similarly, another way of escape is to take to the sky like a bird. When you watch the birds wheeling around in the sky, you get a tremendous sense of the freedom they must feel. And the philosophical point I try to make in this poem is that that's all very well, but one has to abide with the realities of one's life, the earthbound realities, depressing as that can sometimes be. Also at the time I was very deep in my studies in Jungian thought. I was then interested in psychotherapy, but beyond that I found in Jung a tremendous philosopher, I suppose, but a man who didn't dwell in abstractions but in the realities, which is, I suppose, why I try to say in this long poem that we should keep ourselves grounded, as I'm sure that's one of the lessons which Jung teaches us. As I say, I was very deep in Jung at the time, and I've been on and off studying Jung or reading Jung ever since. I'm not now so interested in psychotherapy, which I think has been largely superseded, and in any case Jung's treatment was of neurotic people, not really of psychotic people. And I think to try to apply Jung's methods to the seriously mentally ill is found not to work, although I'm sure his methods are still apt with people who are not psychotic but neurotic. We can be cured of neuroses to a certain extent, but I don't think we can be cured of psychosis. We can be given drugs to control it, but I don't think psychoses ever entirely go away. And I think in many cases they are caused by actual malformations of the brain structure or even damage to the brain structure. And I think we can only control psychoses by administering drugs, but neuroses are manageable. I suppose at that age I was probably neurotic, well, I'm quite sure I was neurotic myself, and I think Jung was a great help in coming to terms with all the various things which I found afflicting me. So I think that's enough to say for now, and I'll post the readings. I've already done 2, and I think it will stretch to 4 on YouTube following this. Good morning.